And good evening and welcome to WLOX Law Call and WDAM Law Call on this Saturday evening. I'm Ken Flanagan. Thank you so much for being with us. We really do appreciate it. We're here live in studio ready to take your questions. And tonight, in honor of Mother's Day, we're calling it Family Law, but we used to call it Mom and the Law. That's tonight's show. We are going to be talking all about family law, as he does every Saturday night from the law firm of Reeves and Mediate. It is Jim Reeves. Good evening, my friend. Always a pleasure to have you here in studio.
We've got a fantastic guest tonight.
Perfect guest for tonight.
Help us do that. Miss Dianne Ellis, our good friend over in Ocean Springs. She's going to answer all the questions I can.
Well, there you go. Dianne, thank you so much for coming back on the show. We really do appreciate it. I believe we had you here for Mother's Day weekend last year.
We did.
Yes.
We
so
did.
we kind of got ours. We do have our email question of the week. And Jim, I think you're going to like this one. This is kind of a summer-related email question. It comes from Mary. Mary says, 2 boys on my street do yard work and chores for me and my neighbors every summer. But they've gone from simple jobs now to lawnmowers, weed eaters, and last year one of them almost stepped on a snake. Mary goes on to say, am I liable if one of them gets hurt in my yard? How would you handle this? Mary, great question. I've always had the kids in my neighborhood work on the yard.
Sure.
It's a great
I did
question.
As a kid.
Yeah, sure, right.
It's kind of a rite of passage.
It
used
is.
to be in the South to work in yards, cut grass, that kind of thing. The short answer is probably not. Most people don't realize, they think if someone's hurt on my property, I can be sued, someone can take everything that I've got.
Right.
That's typically not the case. You're responsible as a property owner, depending on who's on the property, to basically maintain your property in a reasonably safe condition, or if there are dangerous conditions on the property that can't be made safe, you have a duty to warn.
Okay.
And so unless you have something out there, if for instance, one of these guys gets hurt using his own equipment, cutting your yard, you're not responsible under the law.
Okay. With Matthew Mediate, he's going to go over some do's and don'ts of car accidents.
If an employee is involved in a car accident while working, he or she is entitled to workers' compensation benefits, including wages while out of work because of the car accident and medical treatment associated with the accident. However, it doesn't end there. The injured worker is also entitled to recover from the at-fault party and from his own automobile insurance policy or the employer's policy. It's important that these benefits be used in coordination with the medical treatment being provided under workers' compensation. Fail to coordinate these benefits and you could lose them. An experienced attorney can help. If an employee is injured in a car accident at lunch or while commuting to or from work, then it may be considered a covered work-related accident. Also, if the employee is running a work-related errand on the way to or from work, that could also be a covered claim. That's your legal brief for tonight. I'm personal injury attorney Matthew Mediate.
Thank you so much for your
Back
patience.
to you.
What can we help you with tonight?
Hi, Susan.
Hi, how are y'all tonight?
Oh, pretty good.
I have a question. I'm getting a divorce, and my in-laws have passed away and left a good-sized inheritance. What is the rule concerning my ability to get any of that, if at all, in the divorce?
I got you. So you're currently going through a divorce, and there's an inheritance that's possibly wrapped up with this.
Yes.
Gotcha. All right, Susan, let's turn you over to Dianne first. Dianne, what are your thoughts?
Hey, Susan. The inheritance is usually separate property, and it is not subject to division, to equitable distribution in a divorce, except that if it's been commingled. In other words, if your husband has used that inheritance to pay household bills, to buy things for the marriage, then he may have commingled it. But as a general rule, an inheritance is a separate property that is not subject to division. So what's really going to depend is whether or not those funds have been commingled and used during the marriage by both of you.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
And look, Susan, as you can tell, it gets complicated in this kind of situation very quick. You need competent counsel if you don't have it already. This is not something you need to try to do on your own.
Mm-hmm. It'd be tough to run down one,
it would be
Jim.
very tough, absolutely.
Let me ask you this, just as a quick follow-up, in case Susan's still listening out there. Dianne, if she was named directly in the inheritance,
then that would be her separate property. So yes.
So that would be a game changer there.
That would be a game changer.
But generally, you know how it is. It's if you have a family member, they just kind of name their son or daughter or something to that effect.
Correct.
So,
yeah.
All right, Susan, right there for you. I think Jim probably had the best take on this one. It'd be hard to do on your own for this one. Maybe a good idea to give someone a buzz. What can we help you with?
Good evening. I have a question about grandparents' rights.
Great, go ahead.
My daughter's kind of done it on her own, just kind of spitefully because the jealousy between the bond and my granddaughter and me, because I raised her the first 4 years while my daughter was a teenager. Okay, so there's a big bond. When she left, she cried a lot, and for like a year or two, at night. So pretty traumatic for me and both her too.
Sure.
So now she's 9 years old and she's out. She lives on the East Coast. And my question is there any way that I could maybe get her flown down here to visit with me, since she lives so far away? It's about 12 hours.
Oh, Susan, this sounds like a tough one for sure emotionally. Diane, what do you thought? We were talking about grandparents' rights. Is there anything for Susan here?
Yes, Susan, Mississippi does acknowledge grandparent rights, and if you have developed a bond with this child and you have helped to raise her and support her for some part of her life, you are entitled to some grandparent visitation. Now, the question I'm going to have for you is going to be whether or not she is still local. If she's been out of the state of Mississippi for more than 6 months, then Mississippi may not have jurisdiction over that. But under Mississippi law, if she, if it's still the home state of the child, grandparents are entitled to some visitation. There are requirements for that, but it seems to me that you've probably met those. One of those requirements is that that you've developed a bond with that child and have been a significant part in that child's life.
Diane, how does that work? I'm assuming you have to go in front of a judge and kind of present your case for these emotional attachments, that type of thing?
Correct. There are a bunch of factors they have to consider, and one of the big factors is whether or not you've had a relationship with that child.
Right.
And then
and then go from there.
And whether or not it's in the best interest of the child being the key.
What can we help you with?
Yes, I've been in the process of divorce since December and only get a small amount of money for VA disability. Been trying to get my tools and stuff out of the home and been denied doing that.
Okay.
My wife says that my personal laptops are at her attorney's office, which I'm about to start school in less than a month. She don't seem to be making any effort to go get those. I don't know what I can do here, because with the small amount of money I receive, I just cannot afford to go buy another laptop or any of my tools for that matter that I have not been able to get to. I don't know what kind of process I might need to go through to try to get this stuff back.
I got you. Russell, are you currently represented by an attorney by any chance?
Yes.
Okay. Let me turn it over to Diane here, and let's get her thoughts.
This is an issue that you need to address with your attorney. If there's a case filed and there is an action pending, then this could be handled with a court order. Is the best way to handle that issue. Often, if you leave things behind, there's nobody has a right to it, without a court order. So that's what you need.
Would this traditionally, something like a laptop or computer equipment, would that generally be handled in a court order with the divorce, or just sometimes? Okay,
yes,
so it should be listed somewhere.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because it's marital property.
Right.
Anything that belongs to either of the parties is marital property.
Once the divorce begins, everything is court ordered. The court essentially takes control at that point. But you have to, the flip side of that is you have to go to the court and request what you want.
Right.
So if you have an attorney, and if somebody out there doesn't have an attorney, the point is go to the judge and request what you think is fair. And they call the Chancery Court with divorces pending the do-right court. Basically, the court will make people do right.
Right. And Jim, I get it. Russell is kind of in a bind here. He needs his laptop, school starting, maybe give his attorney a call on Monday.
Absolutely. Give your attorney a call. This should be something that is solved pretty easily, quite frankly, assuming the computer is where she says it is, assuming your tools are still there.
Right.
This is something that can be resolved pretty quickly, I would imagine.
25 years ago, I adopted two small children, and as they turned 18, they filed a paper through the courts to drop the adopted name I gave them and took up their mother's maiden name.
Okay.
My question is, now that they have done that, what are my legal responsibilities now, and do I have to include these children in a will or any kind of settlement or anything that would occur after my death?
Okay. Howard, thank you for the call tonight. Diane, your thoughts?
As far as including them in a will, you don't have to include any child in a will. you have no obligation to include your children in the will. So you can absolutely not include them in the will. As far as your legal obligations for support, if there's court order support, in general in Mississippi, it continues until the child's 21. However, if the child is emancipated by law, meaning that they are out of school, not going to school full time, working full time, not being supported by the other parent, then you can terminate your support. Additionally, you can terminate support for under the doctrine of what's called the ungrateful child. If the child is not choosing to have a relationship with you, at some point you can choose to terminate that support, and you have to go through court to do that. And you have to get a court order to do that, but you may have that right to do that. But changing the name alone is not sufficient.
Yeah, name change it's just a name change.
It's just a name change, correct.
Gotcha.
It doesn't terminate the rights of the parent.
Interesting point, though, on the will. I mean, it's a lot of misunderstanding out there about wills. You can leave anything you want to anyone you want in your will. It's your will. You can exclude or include whoever you want. Nobody's entitled to anything. Now, the flip side of that, correct me if I'm wrong, Dianne, if you don't have a will and you've adopted these children, they will automatically take under the intestate statute.
Correct. If there's no will, then that would be the case. Yes.
And we've talked about it before. Just estate planning and having a will is just critical, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. If you have anything besides debt to leave,
my friends, we could keep going. Phone lines are still lit up, but that is our time for tonight. Dianne, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Y'all check out Dianne's website. She's got some great videos about some very important legislation and changes that have happened. Check out her website. She's got some great information and videos on there. Jim, thank you as always. Next week we'll have the Attorney General on with us. We're looking forward to that. Mr. Jim Hood will be here. Going to have a good time with him. But until then, good night.